There is something inside you that most people have never even heard of, but it has always been there, waiting to be awakened. This something is called the Merkaba, an actual energy field, a luminous structure that connects your physical body to your spiritual essence. The Merkaba is not a modern theory. It has been mentioned in Egyptian, Jewish, and Eastern traditions for thousands of years. It has always been described as a sacred vehicle that allows humans to transcend the limitations of matter and access higher dimensions of consciousness. The name itself reveals its power. Mer means light, Ka is spirit, and Ba is body. When these forces align, an internal vessel is activated that can transform your life on every level. Here's the most important part. The secret of the Merkaba has never been accessible to just anyone. It is revealed only to those who are truly ready to awaken. If you feel that this message has come to you for a greater reason, it is because your calling has already begun. Stay with me until the end, because today you will understand why the Merkaba is the lost key to true spirituality and how its activation can change not only your life, but the whole reality. And if these first words resonate inside you, like ancient truths that finally come back to the surface, immediately put a like. It is not a trivial gesture. It will be our secret code. That thumbs up will tell me that you recognize this call, that you too feel that there is something more beyond the visible, and above all, that you are ready to awaken it. I will read it as a silent pact between us seekers of light. Man is an illuminated star, carrying within himself the sky and the earth. Imagine a time when humans still remembered who they were, when wisdom was not trapped in hard-to-read books or hidden behind religious hierarchies. It was something lived, a knowledge passed from soul to soul, in temples, in secret rituals, and on nights under the stars. The Merkaba was part of that legacy, a secret so sacred that it could not be handed down to just anyone. That is why the ancient mysteries, such as the Eleusinian rites, the Orphic teachings, and the Egyptian rituals, passed on this truth in silence, almost like a whisper that traveled through the generations. There were no manuals, no lessons, just practice, living example, and the look of a master in the eyes of a disciple. Because the Merkaba is not something that is taught as a formula, it is something that is awakened. But that connection began to be suffocated as the world sank into wars, the fall of empires, and the rise of religions that needed to dominate bodies and minds. The Merkaba was slowly erased from collective memory, because a human being aware of his own vehicle of light is a free human being. And a free being does not bow, does not obey without question, does not accept being chained in the name of darkness. Forgetfulness was not an accident, it was a plan. For centuries, everything that touched inner knowledge was hunted down, discredited, destroyed. The brutal force of the Inquisitions, the bonfires, the systematic repression did not just erase lives, they erased memories. Every burned book, every public execution of heretics, every silenced voice helped build a world in which the Merkaba became only a distant echo, almost impossible to reach. And so entire generations will grow up without even knowing that a living energy field surrounded their bodies. Generations who believe they are nothing but flesh and blood, forgetting that they carry within themselves the map to touch the divine. The most tragic thing is that many, without even knowing it, still feel that call, that void that nothing can fill, that sense that something is missing even when everything seems in its place. It is the Merkaba trying to awaken. It is your very being remembering that once, long before books, churches, crowns, and empires, you knew. And that is why, even fragmented, even hidden, the call never died. But not all forgot. While most of humanity sank into oblivion, small circles of initiates kept alive the memory of the true transformation. They were called alchemists, but not in the way the history books tell them. They were not simple scholars trying to transform base metals into physical gold. That was only the cover. The great truth was hidden beneath symbols, enigmas, and cryptic formulas. True alchemy was spiritual. For true alchemists, lead was the sleeping mind, heavy, dense, trapped in the illusions of matter. And the gold was the awakened consciousness, the being who had transcended human limitations, turned on his inner light, and reconnected with his divine origin. And then came the best kept secret, the Merkaba. The Merkaba was the invisible instrument that made this transmutation possible. Without it, no true elevation could occur. Without it, the great work of the alchemical process, purification, integration, and ascension, remained incomplete. Alchemists knew that body, mind, and spirit had to be aligned like the gears of a cosmic clock. They knew that dense matter could be transcended, but not through magic formulas or laboratory experiments. The true journey was internal. It was in the silence of the heart and the expansion of consciousness that the lead of the soul was melted, molded, and transformed into living light. And the Merkaba was the vehicle for this process. A living energy field that, once awakened, allowed the alchemist to traverse subtle planes, access higher sources of wisdom, dissolve old patterns, and be reborn into a new state of being. It was not a metaphor. It was not imagination. It was real. It was soul science, practiced long before modern books existed. For them, every true prayer, every deep meditation, every sacred ritual was another step toward activating the Merkaba. They did not seek external wealth. They sought internal mastery. The true philosopher's stone was never a physical object. It was always a state of being. The being who awakens his own light, activates his own Merkaba, and becomes a conscious creator of reality. The spiritualist is one who sees, who knows how to recognize the call. And so, while most of humanity sank into oblivion, there remained those who, in silence, held an ancient memory, something that could not be explained, taught, or imposed. It was a feeling that emerged without warning, like a forgotten memory awakening from the depths of the soul. These are the spiritualists. Do not confuse spiritualism with formal religion. It is not about following rules, repeating rituals, or blindly obeying a tradition. Being a spiritualist goes far beyond that. It is knowing, even without proof, even without guarantees, that there is something more, that what we see with our eyes is not everything, that there is an invisible intelligence that weaves the fabric of life, that there is an eternal flame that beats inside us, even when the world tries to put it out. A spiritualist is someone who feels the call when he looks at the sky, who feels a lump in his throat without knowing why, when he listens to certain songs, who perceives the sacred in the scent of wet earth, in the whisper of the wind, in the silence between the beats of his own heart. Even without knowing its name, he knows he is connected to something bigger, and that something bigger has always tried to awaken him. And it is precisely this invisible thread, this intuition that burns like a silent ember, that guides the spiritualist back to the path of the Merkaba. He does not need complicated formulas. He does not need to be convinced. He just feels it. At a certain point, inevitably, the call becomes too strong to be ignored. Then, without even realizing it, he begins to search. He begins to remember. He begins to recompose, little by little, the map that will lead him home. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates what we are talking about. It is said that in a village surrounded by ancient forests, a child named Elior was born. From an early age, Elior was not like other children. While everyone else played and was distracted, he sat alone on the top of the hills, staring at the stars with an inexplicable longing. It was as if he knew, without anyone ever teaching him, that something up there was waiting for him. One day, wandering aimlessly, Elior met an old man under the shade of a tree. The old man seemed to be waiting for him. Without saying a word, he reached out and placed in the child's palm a crystal that shone even in the daylight. "This," he said, "is what you have always been." Elior looked at the crystal, felt his heart beat faster, but did not fully understand. Nevertheless, he kept the gift as if it held something sacred. Time passed. Life tried to shape him, distract him, push him away. But in every difficulty, in every void, in every night when tears fell for no reason, Eleo remembered that inside him there was something made of light. And even without knowing exactly how or when, he knew that one day that light would awaken. This little story contains a powerful lesson, because deep down we are all like Eleo. We carry a sleeping crystal inside our chest. But few are those who listen to the call, for they are the ones who, at a certain point in the journey, find the Merkaba not as an idea, but as a living reality that pulsates within them. The hidden key, the role of light and sacred geometry in awakening. Have you ever noticed how everything in the universe seems to follow perfect patterns? The spiral of a shell, the shape of a galaxy, the arrangement of the petals of a flower, the structure of your own DNA. Nothing is random. Behind every creation, there is an invisible intelligence, a living architecture that supports every atom of matter and every ray of light. This intelligence manifests itself through sacred geometry, an ancient language that true alchemists knew well and which holds the secret of the Merkaba. Sacred geometry is not just aesthetic beauty, it is the alphabet with which the universe is written. Every line, every angle, every shape carries with it a specific vibration, and these vibrations shape the reality you live. It is as if the universe were a vast poem of light, and every geometric figure a word charged with creative power. The Merkaba is one of these words, and not just any word. It is one of the most powerful. Formed by two intertwined tetrahedrons that rotate in opposite directions, the Merkaba creates a toroidal energy field around the body. This field is not symbolic, it is real, and it has the ability to protect, expand consciousness, and allow navigation between dimensions. It is the vehicle of light for the soul. And this is where the direct connection to alchemy begins. Because when we hear that alchemists wanted to turn lead into gold, that was never the whole story. Lead represents dense consciousness, trapped within the confines of matter, fear, and ignorance. Gold symbolizes awakened consciousness, free, luminous, able to operate in the higher realms of being. The true alchemical transmutation has always been the inner transformation, the vibrational elevation of the human being. And what was the secret instrument that made this transformation possible? The Merkaba. Alchemists did not just manipulate external substances, they worked deeply on themselves. They understood that the external universe was only a mirror of the internal one. They knew that the human body was a sacred laboratory where consciousness could be refined until it reached its purest form, light. And the Merkaba was the great agent of this internal alchemy. Activating the Merkaba means aligning body, mind, and spirit with the original matrix of creation. It means awakening the vehicle of light that is dormant within every human being. Without this awakening, the great work, the true goal of spiritual alchemy, could never be completed. Why is all this so important? Because light is the raw material of creation. Everything that exists is ultimately made of light that vibrates at different frequencies. When you activate your Merkaba, you reconnect your consciousness to your true luminous essence. You begin to operate not only in the dense plane of matter, but also in the subtle levels where realities are shaped. In simple terms, while most people live as prisoners of external circumstances, the alchemist who awakens the Merkaba becomes a conscious co-creator of his own reality. True spirituality, the kind that transcends religions, dogmas, and empty rituals, has always taught this. Spirituality is not running away from the world. It is not disconnecting from life. It is awakening to the fact that life is energy organized according to divine principles, and that you are an active part of that organization. This is where light, sacred geometry, and the Merkaba meet at the heart of the spiritual journey. Light is the essence. Sacred geometry is the blueprint. The Merkaba is the vehicle. When you awaken the Merkaba, you activate within yourself the ability to be conscious light in movement, expressing harmony, wisdom, and power in every action. You not only intellectually understand that you are part of the whole, you feel it, you live it, you become it. And this transformation does not happen outside of you. It is not something that someone else can give you. It is not a blessing that comes from outside. It is a reunion with what you have always been, but that has been hidden by the oblivion, disconnection, and noise of the modern world. This is the true initiation, the true rebirth, the true transmutation. And now, with this knowledge in your hands, the invitation is clear. It is not enough to understand it as a beautiful theory. You have to activate it, feel it, live it. Because as long as the Merkaba remains only a concept, it remains dormant. But when it becomes a living reality within you, the entire field of your experience changes. And this, as the ancient alchemists knew, is the true masterpiece of the soul, transforming into conscious light. Modern science and the Merkaba, when the ancient and the contemporary meet. For a long time, talk of the mind's ability to shape reality seemed to be the exclusive preserve of mystics, alchemists, and visionaries. For centuries, this wisdom was discredited, treated as superstition or fantasy. But the truth has a curious power. It never completely disappears. Now even modern science is reluctantly forced to acknowledge what the ancient masters already knew. In the early 20th century, an experiment changed our understanding of reality forever: the famous double-slit experiment. Scientists wanted to determine the nature of light. Did it behave like a wave or a particle? The answer should have been simple, but what they discovered was so shocking that it still defies the brightest minds today. When no one was looking, light behaved like a wave, spreading out in unpredictable patterns. But the moment someone observed it, the exact instant it was measured, it changed behavior. It stopped being a wave and became a particle, as if the simple act of observing created reality. Think about this for a moment. It is not the external world that determines what you see. It is your consciousness that shapes what exists. This phenomenon is called collapse of the wave function, and it demonstrates incontrovertibly that reality is not fixed. Matter is not a rigid structure independent of your perception. Matter is vibrational, malleable information that organizes itself according to the focus of your consciousness. This is where what the ancient masters taught becomes crystal clear. They said that the mind is creative, that reality is an extension of the inner state of being, that light obeys conscious intention, and that the entire universe is a dance of vibrations, with consciousness as the great conductor. And where does the Merkaba fit into all of this? The Merkaba is, in essence, the instrument that allows this conscious manipulation of reality in a powerful, pure, and harmonious way. When the Merkaba is activated, it generates a high-frequency electromagnetic field around the body. This field can interact directly with the energy grid of the universe. Not only does it protect and elevate your consciousness, but it also acts as an amplifier of your power to collapse waves into particles, to transform invisible potentials into concrete experiences. It is as if the Merkaba were a bridge between the quantum field of infinite possibilities and actual manifestation in your life. Without it, the ordinary mind is like a weak flashlight trying to illuminate the vastness of the universe. But with an awakened Merkaba, consciousness becomes like a radiant sun, capable of organizing reality itself around your deepest intentions. This is why the ancient alchemists did not rely solely on physical instruments. They understood that the true alchemical operation occurred in the mind and the energy field. They knew that human consciousness, when aligned with universal laws, has the power to bend reality like a hand molds clay. All of this is now proven by quantum physics itself. The particles that make up you, your body, your emotions, your thoughts, are actually energy vibrating at different levels of density. You are made of organized light, and this light responds to your consciousness just as the light in the double-slit experiment responded to the simple observation of scientists. When you activate your Merkaba, you are not simply accessing an ancient spiritual tool, you are operating directly in the vibrational architecture of the universe. You are no longer a passive observer, you become an active co-creator of your existence. How to activate the Merkaba? The essential practices of modern alchemists. Understanding the power of the Merkaba is just the beginning. The real leap occurs when you decide to consciously activate it. And for this, the ancient alchemists and spiritual masters have left us very specific practices, passed down through the centuries as keys to transformation. They knew that activating the Merkaba was not a gift reserved for the few, but a natural ability of every human being who chooses to walk the path of awakened consciousness. It all begins with the alignment of body, mind, and spirit. This triad is the foundation of activation. If even one of these aspects is out of sync, the Merkaba field remains dormant, functioning weakly and unconsciously, without revealing its true potential. First step, geometric visualization meditation. This is not your ordinary meditation where the goal is simple relaxation. Here the goal is much deeper, to clearly visualize two interconnected tetrahedrons, one facing up and the other facing down, rotating in opposite directions around your body. Imagine these structures made of pure light, shining brightly, rotating with majestic fluidity. This mental image is not just symbolic. When practiced consistently and consciously, it begins to reprogram your energy field, aligning your physical body with the sacred geometry structure that supports all of creation. Second step, rhythmic breathing. Visualization alone is not enough. It is necessary to integrate rhythmic breathing, a practice that modern alchemists call 18-cycle breathing. Breathing consciously, holding the breath, and releasing it according to very precise patterns creates an internal frequency that activates the harmonic rotation of the Merkaba. This breathing technique is a practical way to calibrate the body's energy field, allowing it to vibrate in tune with higher dimensions. Spiritual science teaches that each breath carries a vibrational frequency. This is why many teachers recommend using the frequency of 528 Hz, known as the frequency of unconditional love, during your practice. When you meditate, breathe consciously and immerse yourself in this frequency. Your light field naturally begins to expand. 528 Hz acts as a catalyst, rearranging the particles of your energy and making it easier to consciously activate the Merkaba. Third step, purification of the physical body. Another crucial point that both ancient and modern alchemists have always emphasized is the purification of the physical body. You cannot sustain a high vibrational field in a toxic body. And this is not just about eating generally healthy food, but about eating living vibrational food. Fresh fruits, raw vegetables, pure water, foods that carry the energy of the sun and the earth. These living foods strengthen the light body because they contain natural geometric patterns in their structure that resonate with the sacred geometry of the Merkaba. Vibrational consciousness goes beyond what you eat. It also includes the thoughts you entertain, the emotions you cultivate, the environments you are in. Activating the Merkaba is a process of inner refinement. Every choice, every word, every intention must be observed as a vibrational seed that can strengthen or disturb your field. The ancient alchemists saw all of this as part of the great work. For them, the transformation of lead into gold was actually the elevation of a dense and unconscious being to an enlightened and awakened being, capable of creating with light. And the Merkaba was the chariot of ascension, the vehicle that made this journey back to the true divine origin possible. Today, even with all the modern technology, the principles remain the same. No external tool can replace the inner work. No magical technique can override the daily commitment to your awakening. That is why activating the Merkaba is more than a spiritual practice. It is a lifestyle choice. When body, mind, and spirit dance together in the harmony of conscious breathing, the purity of living food, the vibration of unconditional love, and the visualization of sacred light, the Merkaba is not simply activated, it is reborn. It blossoms as a living expression of your true nature. Real changes in body and soul. Activating the Merkaba is like lighting a sacred fire within you, but like any flame, it needs to be fed to continue burning brightly. The truth is that the initial awakening is only the beginning of the journey. Without discipline, the vibrational field of the Merkaba weakens, disperses, and goes back to sleep in the deepest layers of the unconscious. That is why true spiritualists know that the work does not end with activation, it deepens. Keeping the Merkaba active requires a daily choice. It is not a sporadic practice to be done only when you have time or when life gets tough. It is a living commitment, renewed every morning, with every conscious breath, with every decision to align with what is true, beautiful, and eternal. The first essential tool is daily meditation, but not just any meditation. It is the practice of entering the silent space where the Merkaba rotates, where the tetrahedrons of light dance in harmony, where the physical body, mind, and soul merge in one movement. Visualizing this rotation is not just imagining it, it is tuning your consciousness to the true vibrational architecture that connects us to everything. The second practice is the continuous expansion of compassion. The energy of compassion acts as the subtle fuel that fuels the luminous field. Every authentic act of kindness, every thought of unconditional love, every intention of healing and service to others strengthens the Merkaba and keeps it rotating quickly and steadily. Everything matters. Every thought you allow, every emotion you welcome, every intention you emanate directly shapes the quality of your light field. The Merkaba is sensitive to your internal frequency. If you harbor resentment, fear, or judgment, it slows down. If you cultivate gratitude, trust, and presence, it expands. This is why, for true spiritualists, practice is not separate from life. Every moment is an opportunity to strengthen the vehicle of light. Every challenge is a chance to choose the highest vibration. Every interaction is a mirror of your vibrational state. What happens after activation? Real changes in the body and soul. When the Merkaba awakens actively and sustainably, profound changes begin to occur. And they are not subtle changes. They are transformations that you feel on your skin, in your soul, in the pulse of life itself. The first thing you notice is a natural expansion of consciousness. Suddenly, you begin to see beyond appearances. Situations that previously triggered anxiety or fear lose their power to influence you. You feel an inner space opening up, a serene clarity that is not rational but visceral. It is like observing life from above, with the vision of a spiritual eagle. Your energy sensitivity also increases. You begin to sense energy fields in places, people, and situations. Your body becomes a fine instrument, capable of picking up subtle frequencies, sensing when something resonates in harmony or dissonance with your field. Your intuition blossoms like never before. It ceases to be a confused whisper and becomes a clear, firm, and loving guide. You feel when to move forward, when to retreat, when to stand still, when to act. No longer driven by fear or doubt, but guided by a silent force that comes from within. Another impressive effect is the natural protection against negative fields. With the Merkaba active, your inner light creates a vibrational barrier that repels dense energies. It is not that the challenges disappear, but they can no longer penetrate your inner structure as before. You become like a deeply rooted tree. Even when strong winds blow, you remain firm, anchored to your truth. And perhaps the most beautiful thing of all, you begin to live in the flow. Coincidences become frequent. What you need comes to you effortlessly. The right people cross your path. Doors open. Life ceases to feel like a battle and becomes a cosmic dance where your every step is guided by the higher intelligence of creation. The greatest mission, why awakening the Merkaba, changes the destiny of humanity. But this transformation is not just personal. Every being who activates their Merkaba becomes like an invisible sun, radiating light to the entire collective field of the earth. Today we live in a critical moment in human history, a turning point where the old frequency of separation, pain, and fear must give way to a new vibration of unity, love, and expanded consciousness. And every awakened soul is a living anchor for this new reality. When you activate your Merkaba, you are not only transforming your life, you are actively participating in the transmutation of planetary consciousness. You become alchemists of the new age, carrying forward the true great work, the elevation of the collective, the healing of the human unconscious, the reconnection of the earth to its divine nature. The ancient masters knew this. They hid this knowledge in symbols, myths, and secret practices because they knew that humanity would need to rediscover it at the right time, and that time is now. The Merkaba is not just a personal light field, it is a portal between worlds, a living bridge that connects matter and spirit, human and divine, visible and invisible. It is a reminder that we are more than passing bodies. We are eternal sparks of creation, sailing among the stars through conscious light. And as more souls awaken, the old world crumbles faster. The new earth arises faster, an earth where there is no longer a separation between the sacred and the everyday, where life is recognized as a living expression of divine consciousness, where every human being remembers who they truly are, a creator, a caretaker, a dancer in the eternal symphony of the universe. Now pay close attention. If this journey has ignited something inside you, don't let it go out. Give it a like if you found pieces of your soul in these words. Leave a comment to tell me which passage struck you the most. And subscribe if you want to continue exploring with me the mysteries that make us divine. Your every gesture is a wave that amplifies this truth. Thank you for being part of the awakening. May your sacred geometries find their perfect resonance. May your every breath be a prayer and your every look a blessing. Until the next vortex of light. See you soon.